So much for being here. Oh, I'm going to say hi again because I don't think that was recorded. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and it's fun to see where you're all joining from. I'm seeing lots of familiar names. So thank you all. For any of you who don't know me, I am an artist and an author and a teacher, and I have written books about drawing the world around you. I'm writing a fourth book now. My first book is Draw Your Day, and my second is Draw Your World. And then I have Draw Your Day for Kids, and I'm working on Draw Your Adventures, which is exciting. And one thing that I love to draw is books because they're just a big part of my world. And lots of people aren't reading as much, but I think that books are still just such great company, and they look so nice. And I just like to draw them as objects. So I draw them in stacks. I draw their covers. I draw their spines. I draw them open and the pages flipping, and I draw them in all different ways. And at this point, just like with your handwriting and learning to write your name, drawing is memory. And, if you draw something enough, it becomes, you can draw it from memory. So what I'm going to be working on today is purely from memory. And I hope that you can follow along. And if I move a little fast, or if you're stuck or anything, just know that this is being recorded. There's only so much we can do in an hour, and there are only so many questions we can answer. So, just relax and have fun, and I'll try and be as clear as possible, and we'll all draw a stack of books. Thanks. Okay, so I've got two extra pieces of paper glued down. The paper that I'm using is the Derwent, light fast paper. I really like this paper. It's great for the paints, and it's got more of like a hot press surface, which I really like because I always sketch in pencil, and then I use fine line permanent pens. I'm using these line makers from Derwent today. And I'll probably use the 0.5 and the 0.3, but we'll get to that later. I also have a 0.8 just in case I want to make some thicker lines. And I've got a 2B pencil. Any pencil will do. You do not have to have these exact materials. Anything is great. So I have these two outside pages stuck to the table for my vanishing points, because I know that as I'm drawing these, the vanishing points, we're going to be doing the basic 2-point perspective. They're going to fall off the page. So unless I was drawing like a really tiny stack of books, I wanted to add these just so I can be really clear what I'm doing and how this works. So I'm just going to really basically start by adding 2 dots outside. You can do this all on one page. So if you don't have my setup, no worries. You'll understand why I've got these here in a few minutes. And I do everything by eye, but I do have a ruler just so I can share. Some people who are drawing something that's in perspective, they like to be really precise. I like things a little bit more, they're true to life and look like books, but it's not perfect. So I will probably not use the ruler, but I just want to have it there just so I can, in case I'm like drawing straight lines is a little bit like balance, and in case I'm completely off today, I've got it there as a backup. Okay, I'm just going to take my bracelet off. Banging. Okay, so I've got these 2 points, and I'm just going to draw. Now, when you're working with your pencil, I tell people this all the time who know me and who have taken my classes, you've got to work really, really light. So I drew a line, but you can barely see it. If I were to add any more pressure, it would be harder to erase, and I want to be able to erase my lines. So I've got this super light line going across, and these are the vanishing points. And so now I'm just going to start by making one vertical line. I'm again just making this up. I'm not looking at reference. I'm just going to make one vertical line for the first book. This is the corner of the first book. And if I were to connect the top of the line to that vanishing point and the bottom of the line to that vanishing point, then I've got pretty much a good idea. I've got two lines running here. I don't know if you can see it because the screen is going to make things light, but I'm just drawing another vertical line just where those two, the top and bottom of these two lines that end at this vanishing point. Now this book is going to be a little shorter on this side, and same thing. If I just drag this point all the way over to the vanishing point, same thing with this, all the way over. Again, I'm not using a ruler, so it's not perfect. And then I just draw another line there. And then I'm going to just leave this for now because I'll start to add in the book-ish shapes in a minute. So that's my first book. That's the basic shape of the first book. The other corner is going to be coming over sort of maybe like this, and it will be maybe a little bit shorter. And same thing at the top point. I'm going to go from that very top point all the way out to the vanishing, and maybe this book comes out a bit here. And then the same thing from that top point over. My lines are not straight, but to drawing, I don't want it to be perfect. So there's another book. I can now at this point I can add a big book down here. I'm curving the lines a little bit because you know how sometimes hardcover books have a little bit of a curve at the spine. We can get into that next because next it's fun to add the details. Same thing, bottom, and there's curve of the book. Now I'm going to do one more that's kind of skinny. So you can make skinny books, and this one will stick out a little bit as well. And then I'll do another fat book up at the top, very big one. Now, sometimes if you're going to get really, really steep with your stack of books, you're going to be seeing the bottom of the book as well. So this point here, I don't want to get too confusing. This point here at the bottom would also meet at the vanishing point. So once the books get a little bit more, we're seeing them more from the bottom, you need to include the bottom of the book as well. We just have that one tiny detail here, so I'll just leave a little bit of it. If I did, see if I can show you how that would work. We'll do one more that's sticking out here. So this corner is also going to meet at the vanishing point. So now we're seeing a tiny bit of the bottom of the book. And from the angle that we're at, we can't quite make out the entire spine. Or sorry, this is the entire side. I think that's where the pages are going to be. All right, I think I'm happy. This is my stack so far. It's a first sketch, and well, now I'm going to add details. So now all the fun happens once you've got your your stack established. Now you can add all the details. So I would probably know in my practice go right to pen with these details, but I'm gonna do a little bit more in pencil first. And it's also really, really fun to either use real life reference or just make up what the books say on the spines. I really love on like older books, the like stripes and even like gold gilding that happens on the spines of books. Sometimes there's like a publisher's logo. We can make a little fake seal and make a little logo at the bottom of this one. And sometimes there'll be like a little plaque that says, you know, the title of the book. Now, anything like this is also going to follow the same rules and meet at the vanishing point. So anything you're drawing on the book, whether it's letters or anything, is going to be the same. You're going to follow the same perspective. So that's the bottom book. And this one, maybe we'll just say, call this history. So I'm just going to say it's a history book. I'm just going to do loose letters. And maybe there's another little like logo or something at the bottom. So the tops of these letters, again, it all is going to follow the same perspective. So the bottom of the letters and the top of the letters would hit at the point where the line, the line top point and the bottom point would also be aligned with a line that goes from goes to the vanishing point. Sorry, I'm just stumbling over my words. Hopefully this is clear. Okay, and you know, maybe I'll make stuff up as I go, or I can look at the chat if you all suggest things. Okay, so this book, this one that's at the bottom, is one of those older books, and it has like a little bit more of a curved spine, and then you're going to want to add the pages. So I just go back and forth and back and forth and just create like a really loose line. Then the hardcover comes out a little bit. The pages are kind of inside the book. I think you all probably know what I'm talking about. This book is going to not be, this one's going to be like a soft back book, so it doesn't have the curved spine. You can also do some of the pages on this side, but for this stack, I'm going to make all the spines with the words are going to be facing the same direction on this side, and all of the pages are going to be on the left side. And I'll make this one hardback as well. Okay, and so oh, I'm seeing in the chat there are not very many questions, which is great. Okay, now I'm going to start with my ink. This is my process. It doesn't mean that this is the process that has to work for you. This is how I usually make my drawings. I do pencil sketch, usually a little looser than this, but for teaching purposes, I wanted to make it tighter. And then I'll go in with a permanent pen and then I paint. And sometimes I'll go back and forth with paint and ink. So now I'm using the 0.5 and I'm just going to outline, because then it's really fun to be able to erase the pencil. So I don't mind if my lines aren't straight. They're not perfect. That's how I draw. If you want your drawing to be more precise, then the ruler is always there for you. So I don't do like perfect stripes along this side. They're just little scratchy, more like hints. I can untape this and pull it up when I'm finished so you can see what I mean. Um, it's not, that's just my style. And you don't even have to draw the line on the side. It can just be made of the.
Hey Sam, someone asked what saucepan or lawn maker you're using for that.
Oh yeah, I showed, it's the 0.5 right now.
0.5.
But if you've got a different brand, it might not correlate, you know, it's sort of like a medium kind of new. Not too, is that, oh, that's not in focus, but yeah. But hopefully you have the Derwent pens. They're great. I just, I know if you don't, I mean, it's, anything's gonna work. So the details of this part, you know, it's actually like a little thick, there's thickness to this, like the hardbound books. I love drawing those. Okay. Now this one's going to be similar. There's definitely fun shadows to make up and play with that we can get to with the paint. So there's the outline. I think it's looking great. Now, what's really fun is doing this, which is you can leave your pencil lines. Sometimes I leave mine. Oh, I didn't let that dry. The rest of it dry. You gotta let your ink dry. I'm not. It's hard to do. It's hard to do the drying thing when you're teaching. But so now I erase the pencil, and you've got a stack of books that look pretty much in perspective. I'll get to the details on the spine in a minute. And because my pencil lines were so light, I can completely erase them so that they're 100% gone. Like I said, I do leave some just because I don't mind them. I like the way they look. But the outside lines, if I was drawing something where I needed some perspective lines, I probably would erase those because they can be distracting. Okay, yeah, if somebody's using Micron, it's probably the same, the 05, I would say. I just happen to see that in the chat. Okay, for the details in the spine, I'm switching to a slightly thinner nib. This is the 0.3. And, you know, just try, yeah, I'm gonna do history, but sometimes with the words, I don't want to outline them because maybe they'll be in white. But the history I'm gonna work on. So I'm just making them, I'm using my handwriting as a guide, and I'm just doing like a very rough block letter. Your books can say anything. You can even do these drawings and send them to people and write like messages on the spines. I mean, it's all, there's all sorts of fun things you can do with the what the books say. Okay, just a quick, this, what happens with the paint next is important. And sometimes I don't want to do too much with the ink before I get to the paint. Okay. So I'm just gonna pull this up so everybody can see. Everyone see? I did smudge my ink there, but I can fix that with the paint. So you see there's some of the pencil lines, but I erased most of them. I will get rid of the top and bottom line around history. Okay, so now I'm going to start to paint, and I'm using the Inktense paints. I love these. I've been using them for many years now, and is why I work with Derwent, because of my love of these paints. So, and I'm using the Derwent 2 sizes of the water brushes. They're really easy. I use them all the time. They're great for on the go, which is, you know, most of my work is done on the go. And I'm just using the thick one, which I love using. It keeps me really loose and it creates like a really nice thick line. And I might use this now. So we will start with this one. And I just like how I can I can make a nice straight line with this pen. So I'm just using the red, nothing special. It's just the first layer. What I really love about these paints is that you can layer them. And then I can use the side just to get that little detail at the bottom. So the top book is red. I'm making this up on the spot, so do not have a plan of the colors, but let's see. The history book is going to be, I think, like an orangey yellow. So I've got my thinner brush because I want those letters to be white. If anyone has any questions now, I'm just painting, so sometimes it's hard for me to talk and answer questions and paint, but
There's no questions right now.
oh, that's
Everybody's
great.
just saying thank you for the great explanations.
Okay, good. That's always a good sign, I think. Or I'll just go with that.
I think you're right. Everybody is saying thank you for the wonderful explanations and they're able to follow along. So
Oh, good. Oh, that's great news. Okay, great. I find sometimes with certain subjects, like if anyone subscribes to my email, I'm putting together a list of my favorite books, like design books and books that I find inspiring, some old, some newer. And I figured I would draw them, and it was interesting timing because of this class, and I was thinking, oh, I'll draw them from reference and just make a stack and draw them all together. And then, you know, I'm just always reminded that sometimes it's harder when you're looking at a stack of books in front of you. It's easier to make it up once you get used to drawing something anyway. Because when it's in front of you, then you start going like, oh, am I right? Is this right? Is my perspective? It can get distracting trying to get it to look like what's in front of you. All right, so this book here is going to be brown. I'm not mixing a lot. This was a little bit of I think it's mango and sun yellow. I did mix those, but I'm pretty much going right from the pans right to the spines here. So this one is the red oxide. No, natural brown. Yeah. And similar to watercolor, when you're using these paints, if you wet them and get them like kind of more like work the water in so that it's thicker in the palette, they become really opaque, which I love. But they can also be super washy. Okay. For the big book, this one is going to be for yellow, ochre, and a little bit of white.
Samantha, do you want to talk a little bit about how folks can subscribe to your newsletter?
Oh yeah, the newsletter is well, it's really everywhere. If you go to my website or my Instagram, I link to signing up. And if you like a Patreon, if you want to join the paid tier, we have meetups and we do challenges together, and it's fun. I'm going to be working on a challenge with my paid subscribers soon in the fall. But you don't have to. I mean, my email and the book list is going to go to everyone. I mean, that's only for if you want to join the smaller community. So it's on Substack, and the Substack is called Draw Your World. So it should be easy to find, I hope. And I can link to it in the chat. I just can't right now while I'm painting. All right, I'm making decisions as I go. I do like to leave as much white as possible so that I'm not, because sometimes it's hard to get that white back. But I'm gonna let that dry a little. And oh no, sorry, I'm going to use the 03. Stick with the thinner. I'm gonna clean this with black. Just wasn't sure. Little details at a time. Now, when I add the next layers, then I can start to add the shadows, which really makes it look real. Okay. I guess I have to decide. Maybe this one is going to have, just looking on my, okay, it's going to have like a little title here that I just made up. Doesn't say anything, that's just a scribble. I'm looking at a book on my bookshelf, so that's what that is. And then this one is going to say, I'm going to write this way.
Someone is asking if you can show us what it looks like in the mixing area, but you said that you're
Yeah.
not really doing much mixing.
I'm not right now, but I can show. My paints are a little bit of a mess, but I definitely can show. I know I can't get everything in the screen or else my painting is too far away. So this is an alphabet book. I have a lot of these. Okay, I think that's good. Now, see, my small brush. Right now, this is what my palette looks like. I haven't done much mixing. This was for this book here, and it was the yellow ochre and the white, which my white has gotten very muddy. This book is going to stay white, so this will be interesting because what happens with that is I'm just going to add a tiny touch of black. Just a very, very, very small light wash just to show shadow. That's going to be a white book. This book is navy. I find when I'm put on the spot to make things up, I get nervous. So I did look at my bookshelf to figure out what this. No, it just takes patience to go around letters that are lighter than the background. And the Derwent paints dry really fast, so you kind of have to work fast. I have learned how to live with little mistakes and I know how to fix them, but it can definitely be frustrating if you're not used to them. They don't re-wet, and that's the beauty of them, but also can be hard as well because once you put the pigment down, it stays and it's not movable like watercolor. So you can kind of see what I mean when it takes us a little bit to work with it because I don't know if you can see that, but like where I had already have paint down, it didn't blend with what I painted over. So it's just a matter of like adding layers to smooth it out and working quickly. I hope that makes sense. You just have to work with the paints to get to know them.
While you're painting, somebody asked if you can put the lettering in after.
Oh, after what? After
They didn't state. Just says, can you put the lettering in after? I'm assuming.
you can do anything you want. I mean, like I said, this is my process, and actually, it's my process on this particular painting. Like my process changes from painting into painting too, depending on how things go. That makes sense. So sometimes I will decide later, oh, you know what, I want that book to say this, or I come up with an idea later, like, oh, it's a great, if you, let's say you're drawing your day, which is my books and what I teach, it's basically an illustrated journal. Let's say you're capturing your adventures for the day. One of the things I encourage everyone to do when they're on all of their artwork, and especially on anything that's a memory or a moment in time, is to date your work. So if you're drawing a book, it's great to put the date right on on the spine of a book. I've done that many times.
She ended up
so-
stating after you do your watercoloring. So, but like you said, it's the preference, so.
Yeah, I mean, anything goes. I mean, I'm just speaking to like, I don't know, sometimes we decide to do things in different times. So now I'm just going in and really lightly with my eraser, erasing the pencil so that you can see I have the white of the page. But I do need to add shadows so that the books become more dimensional, and I will do that later. So you'll see that I'm checking my time. Looks like I have about 15 more minutes. You can add more detail later with the pen, which is what I'll do. So, okay, I'm going to try and speed this up because now I am getting nervous about time. This one is my scribble. I'm just making that in black. Now, what I want to do with my bigger brush is do all these pages. And for the most part, they're all going to be the same color. Some pages are more yellowed than others, but I'm just doing a really light wash of like even lighter than what I did here, but kind of the same. And sometimes they're going to have a little, they'll be a little more gray, but it's just a light wash that I go right over my ink with. Aged. So there's going to be a shadow on the table where the surface that they're sitting. I'm going really, really, really light. I don't know if you can see how light, but I even want to blot it. I can even test it over here. Just really, really light. And I'm just going to add. A made up shadow. Just to show that it's sitting on a surface. And I can even pretend that the table is like here. Okay. So now I'm going back in with my light pen and I'm going to add a little bit more shadows. As it's sitting on the table, there might be a little bit more of shadow down here. The books above, because the light is coming from this direction, the books above are going to be casting the shadow. So I can add a little bit of paint here. That was dark. So I know how to work with these paints. That doesn't really scare me, but it might. There's a little shadow there. More shadow here. So you see how that really kind of helps? It makes it look a little, I do need to let this dry, but I'm gonna do the same thing here. These are just finishing details, so it's not. I think what's really important though is this these are just, it's like a version of blocks, you know, it's a perfect way to practice 2-point perspective. So just play around with it and see what happens. And the more you do it, the more easy that part will be. And then anything can go from there. Once you get the basic shapes down and you've got your pencil sketch, you can finish it however you want and have fun with it and create. And if you follow these 2 points, your stack can keep going. I mean, you can. Oh, I have a postcard. I'll show you. Let me see if I can quickly. I just thought of this right now. I hope I can find it. One sec. Can I find it? Yes. So here's a postcard I made. The books are only the paper side and they go all the way up. So this is interesting though, because I'm looking at them head on and just know there is a vanishing point, but it is way out on this side, like so far that I can't, because I'm looking at it so closely that vanishing point exists, but it's really far away. This is more of an extreme angle where we're like a little bit smaller and looking up at the books, and that's why it works like with closer points. Okay, and just keep going with the paint. So I also want to add a little bit of shadow here. I'm going to what it's looking like. Now, what do I want to do in that block? It's really fun to add, and Derwent makes great, if I can find those. Okay. Metallic Derwent paints. If you want to paint something metallic, you might as well go with the actual metallic. So I'm just going to take some gold and see what happens. I've taught classes with metallics, and when I like to use metallic paints, it's when things are actually metallic. Why not, right? Like in your world, if you've got a lock or you've bought some new cutlery and for your kitchen. Whatever the case may be. I'm going to actually try some of this sunset because it's a little darker and mix it with the gold. Yeah, that's better. Does anybody have any last questions? I know that I don't think we can do this in the Michael's classes, but I always love to see what other people have done. So I don't think we can do that today though. But if you have made a painting, and do you want to tag me on Instagram or even just send it to me through Substack, through my email, I would love to see.
The only question so far is, do you clean off your paints or let them stay mixed?
Do I clean them off or let them, sorry?
Stay mixed. I guess your paint palette.
You mean, do I leave this mess?
I think they're talking about the actual paint block. Like, do you dab it out like when you mix them?
Well, so that's what I always have this for.
Yeah.
I think that I'll just answer all the mixing. What do I do? I have these are those like extra thick paper towels. And they're really great. Sometimes I get them from like bathrooms in New York City. I don't buy them, but like if I'm in a bathroom, I'll stick one in my bag. I've talked about that before. It's like a funny little thing. T-shirts are really good, old t-shirts, but I always have these rags, and then like if I just keep folding them, they last forever. So I just blot my brush and squeeze a little water out and blot until it's clear. Like see how now it's clear. That's what I do with my brush. Eventually this gets so messy, I do take water and clean it out. Usually like with the same rag or a different rag. When my white or these colors, if I'm mixing a lot and they get really muddy, I will clean them out with some water. So I hope that overall answered the question.
Yeah, and then a couple people asked about like a horizon line, like defining the edge of the table.
Yeah. These are just kind of hanging out in space, but the horizon, like the table really could be anywhere because it's where I'm sitting looking at the books. So like we have a curved table. I mean it could be like a curved table. I guess they would, if I did that, they'd be kind of falling off, wouldn't they? Like you can kind of put it anywhere. You know, I made this up, so let's just say, let's see if it looks right here. When I'm doing a pencil line and I want something to meet up on the other side, I always go right across. Because if you stop here and then kind of guess where it is over here, it's usually wrong. So just go right across. So I don't know, that works, right? I mean, I made this up, so I don't know if I'm. Let's see. They're sitting on a table now, right? But yeah, I don't know. I think it can kind of be anywhere around here. Yeah. And if it's sitting on a wood table, then that's super fun. I've done that many times because I've done another class with wood grain, painting wood grain. What time is it? I have time, so I can just play around with that. I'm not too concerned about messing this up. You'll all forgive me if I do. Hopefully I won't. But that's the great thing about these paints, the layering. So if I go right over the shadow, you can still see it. I'm going light. Yeah. Now it is sitting. Comfortable. And I can go really dark with this. I can add wood grain patterns and things if I wanted, or you gotta work fast, that's all. Kind of have to be decisive with these paints. If you add a lot of water, you can move it around because it's just not dried yet, but you just have to be aware that once it dries, it's pretty much there. Oh, I like that. I don't know. I think it needs another shadow again, but I have to wait till it dries for that. Now this is metallic. I love the way it looks in the light. I don't know if I can capture that. Can you all see it? Kind of see it, right? So if and it's funny because I thought the other thing about these paints, keep in mind, is if you think that you were too dark with something, it dries down because that shadow that I thought was a little dark definitely could be more, I added some more just now. All right, I still have to let that dry, but I'll add more shadow. And then I think I might do a little, what is the date? August 16th, so 8. Oh, I added the date. Just gonna finish and I'll add the shadow as this is drying. Any last questions?
A couple of people have asked if you will be posting, handouts for reference.
Handouts, no.
And
No.
then,
I have not done that for the Derwent classes. Is that something that other teachers have done?
I am not sure about that.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not for these
I don't
free
think so.
classes. Yeah, for longer classes, for classes that I, you know, for retreats and workshops that I do. I just taught at Stationery Fest in Brooklyn for 3 days. There was a handout. I had reference and things, but this is not for this.
I think folks were maybe referring to a reference photo, but you didn't work with a reference photo for this class, right?
No, this is all made up. So, as I said, if you start drawing something and if you keep drawing it, you eventually can draw it from memory. So it does come, I promise, if you keep drawing. But I've been drawing things like this for like, I don't know, forever. Yeah, and I feel like that some of these words need to be in shadow too. So sometimes when you do, I'm just gonna do like a cast over that because they were a little too white. There would be a little bit of shadow on the words. There we go. All right, so I think that this might be dry. It's still wet. Still kind of, the paper's still kind of wet. I don't want to ruin it, but I'm gonna just see if I can get a little more of that shadow in. Yeah, in other classes, and when I do, there are my meetups with my group, which I Substack, which again is like a Patreon. I always send reference. So there's my stack of books. We have 5 more minutes if anyone wants to ask anything else. I really encourage you to obviously work from your own imagination and from your own life and your own reference. So even when I do supply reference, so recently we painted clotheslines and laundry lines in our homes and around the, you know, laundry lines that we've seen around the world. And it's just like a nice universal subject. And I think about half the people painted from their own reference and others use mine. So it's, even when I do give reference, that's just how I teach, is that I encourage people to use their own life and their own vision of the world around them in their artwork. Em says you've been stuck on drawing books. I'm so glad. Well, I hope I hope that this was, you know, it's funny because when you draw something in perspective and they look kind of so real, then the fact that like I drew them for imagination is like, did you draw them from imagination? But I did, and so you kind of don't want them to look too real, you know? So finding that balance is kind of fun, and yeah, I mean, your books don't have to be in perfect perspective. They can be totally wonky, and that's great. You can also draw them like, there's a woman named Jane Mount, I think is her name. She has books. I don't want to get the title of her books wrong, but she draws people's collections of books or their favorite books just straight on. So they're just, you know, they're just like, you know, basically long rectangles. And then she draws the titles in the spine. So you can draw them like that too, and that's awesome. Just, I encourage reading and books, as many books around you as possible for inspiration. So I guess that's it. If anyone wants to reach out to me at any point, I'm always available. And yeah, if you join my Substack, we're just subscribe and to get my emails. There's no need to join. You can, it's like a blog, and you can see all of the posts that I've made to date, and you can just scroll through and read. I've shared a bunch of little stories about things and collections of my drawings, and I find it's a great way for me to share that can live somewhere that people can look to, as opposed to social media that is so quick and temporary. So yeah, it's I hope it's easy to find, but just Google my name, Samantha Dion Baker, or Draw Your World, and you should be able to find it. Yeah, is that it? Does anybody have anything else? No?
No, I think that's it for questions. It
Yeah, you
seems.
know, I will do this really quick, just since we have 1 minute. Let me just see. Here, this is the link. That's my, that will take you, and you just sign up. You can do the free version. And if you have any questions, I can totally answer about that. So, but yeah, it's just joining my email. And if I have any other classes, that's where I share them first. You're welcome. I'm so glad everyone liked that. Have fun drawing books.